In this video, I'm conducting an interview with James MacNaughton. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe, and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Please let me know what you think in the comments below and what you'd like to see in future videos so I can work on that. My book, Backgammon, Backgame Strategies, is available. There's a link in the description to where you can get it. And if you're interested in lessons, please contact me via email. My email address is in the description. Again, in this video, it's my pleasure to have my friend James MacNaughton. Thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. Big fan.
Thank you very much. Likewise, I'm a fan of your channel. We'll certainly talk about that. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I had a fun tournament at the weekend. I've been playing some online matches and feel like things are going well. So yeah, I'm good. What about you? How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you for asking. I was running a tournament last night as well, doing a lot of backgammon work. So that's a lot of fun. I appreciate that. And you're joining us from Paris, is that correct?
Yeah. From Boulogne-Billancourt, which is a nice little suburb, not too far from Roland Garros for any tennis fans.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Are you a tennis fan?
I like watching it. I don't play.
Yeah, I used to play, but I like watching it. I'm watching, like right now, they're having the big Australian Open tournament.
Yeah, it's great to watch. I think at the moment, especially with the men's, it can be anyone's game. It can be anyone's game now. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
mhm.
When I used to play, we always played on hard court. I've never played on clay.
Play is different. You get a lot of this slipping and sliding, which I think takes a lot of people by surprise, and the ball tends to bounce a lot higher as well.
Right. It's a slower surface.
Yeah, I grew up
Yeah.
watching Wimbledon religiously. Like every summer,
Right.
yeah.
And that's kind of the opposite surface. It's a very fast surface.
Oh, it's extremely fast. Everything stays very flat, so it's great to watch. When I was growing up, it was really when Federer was dominating everything. It was great. It's beautiful to watch.
Yes. Yes, yes. Okay, great. So I'm happy to have you. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk about backgammon. I'd like to start, if I may, with a little background biographical information. I know you live in or near Paris right now, but where are you from originally?
I'm originally from the UK. I grew up in various places in Scotland and England, and I've been living in France since about 2009. So I'm almost French, not quite. I don't have that the shiny new passport yet, but hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll get a nice positive response from the government soon.
Okay, good. Did you do your education in the UK or in France or somewhere else?
I did my school and my university in the UK. I came to France. I did a few things, including doing an official pastry 2-year apprenticeship. So that was interesting. That was a long time ago, a different lifetime.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so my education has been in the UK. My career has been in France.
I see. And are you married yourself?
No, I'm single currently with no kids.
No kids. That's why you look so young. That's good.
It's a secret.
Uh,
What can I say?
it's that is the secret. It's you'll learn. You'll learn. I have two kids. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And what kind of work do you do?
I'm a translator. I do written translations from French to English. I run a little translation company where I do mostly directly to businesses in agri-food, insurance, and several other sectors. I also did, to drop a little plug, I translated a backgammon book by the legend of French backgammon, Francois Tardieu. I've already talked about this on various other platforms, but I will plug it again. Link in the description, I imagine. This is Strategic Concepts by Francois Tardieu, which I translated. I spent about 3 months at the beginning of last year doing it, making sure it was ready for Monte Carlo. And
Yes.
and it's really interesting to do. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he was a huge player until the beginning of the 2000s, and then he just dropped off and played poker for 20 years. And I think he's a maths professor as well. But he was doing all this. He actually wrote most of this as just articles that were just shared around as PDFs way before XG was around. And most of the concepts have actually held up really well. There's been some of his fine tuning but compared with other books that were written pre-XG, it's like he got a lot of it very, very right, and it's fascinating to see how he worked through it and how he understood these concepts.
Yes, absolutely. I am familiar with him, and I have read a lot of his articles before. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that book as
Mhm.
well. That's a fantastic book. I definitely recommend it. I know that Mochi and Sander Liloff wrote a foreword, and they were there, and I remember their picture together. I think I have the picture of the three of them on the cover of the review that I did. So great. Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about that some more in depth. How did you first get into backgammon yourself?
It was actually by accident. I had a friend who'd come back from Istanbul with a souvenir backgammon board, and we went out to drink a few beers, and he brought this, and he's like, "Do you know how to play?" And I'd learned the rules, but for me, it was just you roll the dice, you move some checkers, and that was about it. And that was fun, and I kind of let it slide a bit, and then lockdown happened, COVID happened, and I
Yeah.
found with a lot of free time and a lot of time on the internet, and I started playing online, and I realized, like, there are some people that are actually really good. How can this be if it's a game of luck? So I started studying it. I learned there
Yeah.
was a club in Paris, which I joined, and yeah, it just went on from there. It's one of those things where the more you learn, the more you realize that you have left to learn. So it's a wonderful thing.
Yes, and I know in Turkey, oftentimes they call it tavla. Do they have a different name in France? Was it trick track or something like that?
Yeah, there are a couple. There's Trick Track and there's also Jackie. Um, and you can still see in some museums there's one of the buildings of the Louvre has like design objects in it, and you get backgammon tables from I think the 18th century that were used in stately homes. So yeah, it's been around, but it's considered very much kind of gentleman's aristocratic leisure activity rather than anything else.
Yeah,
It seems that it's only been the past 30 years, maybe 30, 40 years that people have been taking it seriously in France.
okay.
Um, so yeah, so we're seeing it seems to be maybe it's too big of a word to say a renaissance, but certainly a kind of resurgence of interest in backgammon, and it's been really good to see that and to try and kind of follow that wave.
Yes, I feel like a lot of people have told me the same thing. Of course, the COVID pandemic was terrible, and you never want that to happen again. But I
You've broken
try
up.
to
I can't hear
take
you. Well,
positive things. And one of the things I found is a lot of people like yourself, these online platforms have really popularized backgammon. Which platforms did you start playing on yourself?
I started playing, I can't remember what it was. It was just it might have even been Yahoo Games at the very beginning. And I quite quickly went over to Backgammon Galaxy, the first version of it. And that was a revelation because you could analyze your play, you could see where you're making mistakes. Because when you first start, you're playing and you win and you think you're great. You think you can beat everyone. And then I was like, oh, okay, actually I can learn from this. And then from there, when I started going to the club, all of our online tournaments and all of the national, international online tournaments are on Heroes. So that's one I've kind of moved towards. Um, I find yeah, I find it's easier. I'm more used to logging onto that and taking it seriously now rather than with Galaxy, where I kind of more just pick up when I got a few minutes to do a little game and have a bit of fun. And I don't spend as much kind of mental capital on it.
Yeah, I think the different platforms have their pros and cons, and they're all developing and improving based on the feedback of the players. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. That's great playing online. And we'll talk about the whole streaming thing you have with the online. But what kinds of interests do you have outside of backgammon?
I like to draw. I'm in a drawing class, as we discussed. I like to cook, and I like to play badminton. Badminton's
Oh, very good.
yeah, badminton's great. It's explosive, and you're just there, and you're you're in it, and it's so fast that you're fully committed, and you're just when it goes well, it goes so well, and when it goes badly, you hate yourself.
I heard this joke, and someone said, I like the game Backgammon, so for their birthday, his friend got him a shuttlecock because it sounds like badminton. Yeah, I've heard that. But that's a fun game. I never really played that much. I did play some tennis when I was younger. So what did you find when you started playing? What did you find you enjoyed the most about backgammon?
I love that it seems to have so many layers to it, or I know it does now, but just discovering that, and you play people and you find the different styles, and it's really a way of getting to know people. You could sit down in front of someone and without necessarily talking to them, you sit down and spend half an hour in front of someone, and you're interacting with them, but completely non-verbally. I find that fascinating. And I get that quite a lot in tournaments, especially when people are actually focusing and concentrating. It's not a club night where you're just having fun, just trying different things. But when you see someone that's actually putting their mind to try and beat you and to try and overcome the luck factor and everything, it's a really interesting way of doing it. And as opposed to chess, for example, I always liked that the stronger player is never guaranteed to win, which I think is important, especially when you're starting out, because otherwise you can become discouraged quite easily.
Yes, I think a lot of people like the fact that there is a combination of luck and skill. So in terms of the skill, when you were first learning, what kinds of things did you do to improve your game?
I started to read books. I read a couple of Mark Olson books. I found them very good for beginners, especially his Basics to Badass, and Michi's series has been excellent. I really started to improve and get serious when I downloaded Extreme Gammon, because all of a sudden you get this powerful tool that plays better than anyone in the world, and you can just go through it and see what you're doing wrong. Obviously, the problem is it tells you that you've made a mistake and what the right move is, but it doesn't say why it's a mistake or why it's the right move. And that kind of forces you to work on it and try and understand the position and think, okay, what's going on here? And I find this even more so with the cube than with checker plays. I was talking to a good friend of mine last week. We were saying, because in XG you can have a separate PR for your checkers and PR for your cube. And someone was asking a hypothetical question. It's like, could you have someone like really good at the cube but not very good at checkers? Because generally what happens is your checker PR is much better than your cube PR. And the answer is probably not, because to be good at the cube, well, to be good at the checker play, you need to understand the position. But to be good at the cube, you need to understand the match. So I don't think you can do one without the other. And so this is it's been a really interesting way of just working towards that and just trying to understand kind of the narrative of a match as it goes, to try and identify like where you are, what's happening, and like taking what Extreme Gammon tells you, you've made a blunder here, and trying to take that and find out where you are in the match and see how it applies and what's the dynamic of it. And this has been something that's that I've been trying to find. I find, for example, with individual positions, like with quizzes, I'm terrible. I suck at quizzes. I'm really bad because I'm just put directly in a position. I don't know what's come before. I find it hard to visualize what's going to come after. But if I'm within a match, I find it much easier to identify like where I'm going and how to get there. I'm not sure if you find this, or maybe you're really good at quizzes.
Oftentimes with the quizzes, there is what we call a quiz factor. There's a trick. It's a trick question or something.
Yeah.
So sometimes that makes things easier, but it can be hard. And I remember one time I spoke with a late falafel. He told me, if you want to get really good, learn the checker plays. But the people that are the best are the ones that are good with the cube. So that's what it takes to get your game to the next level. And it is harder. Most people are better with the checkers than the cube. In fact, probably almost all people are. So that's great. Yeah, XG is fantastic. And now you've been involved in the Paris Backgammon Club. Is that what it's called?
It's called Paris Videau. Paris Videau. Videau is French for doubling cube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we call it Videau. So the club is called Paris Videau. And it's been around actually, I think since 2014, maybe. I joined 2.5 years ago. And the changes actually just in that short time have been quite impressive. When I arrived, I was the youngest player there. Well, the youngest regular player there by quite some way. But now I feel almost like an old man sometimes. Those are guys that are mainly guys. Unfortunately, there are women that do play, but you know, backgammon is mostly masculine, which is a shame. But yeah, I got these young guys in their late 20s, early 30s. They're coming in, they're thirsty. They want to go to tournaments. They want to win boards. They want to get a master title. They want to get international recognition. It's been quite fun, and it's kind of pushed everyone else up.
That's great. What has been your involvement in the club yourself?
I started off just playing and going to tournaments, and then I suggested putting together a YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel is Paris Videau, and that's the channel of our club. And originally that was just going to be to just get a stream and a record of our kind of internal tournaments, because we play at a brasserie not far from the Arc de Triomphe called the Esmeralda. But that kind of grew, and I started to get better at filming and streaming. So I was asked to do the national tournaments. We have a circuit of about 10 or 12 national tournaments called HSBT, the Hector Sachs Backgammon Tour. And I started streaming those. I streamed the one in Nantes last weekend. And then I realized, you know, we do a lot of tournaments online. So I started doing commentary for these, and then doing my own kind of play and explain thing like Nick Blasier does. And
Yes.
it's kind of grown into that. And obviously it's extremely niche. The channel is French. It's in French. It's mainly because I found that the French-speaking community is quite underserved in terms of backgammon content. So I thought we needed a platform.
Yeah.
So I've been working on that for the club, and I've also recently been starting doing BMAB tournaments within the club. Try and do one every 6 to 8 weeks. So that's actually let some of the kind of more motivated players in our club like really get working and you know, focus and get a rank. And myself and one of our other players have within 3 tournaments got a Masters rank, which is quite impressive, I think. So that's been really good. But apart from that, I try to help out with tournaments and other things like that.
Yeah, you've done a lot of outstanding work. It's just fantastic, the things that you do. I always like to express my appreciation and gratitude to all of those things for all of my guests. So thank you for that. What do you find are the best ways to grow the club? Because you mentioned that the club was smaller initially, but it's grown. So what do you find is important to grow a club? Because we've had these conversations on social media forums and elsewhere.
Well, I think especially if you want to attract younger players, you need online platforms. You need a YouTube channel. You need active kind of Facebook group. You need communication with other groups, with other clubs, and you need online competitions as well. Because a lot of younger ones, they probably play about 80 to 90% of their backgammon online. So that's a real way in. We started doing that. We set up a league. We got like 7 divisions in it, which is quite good, and that's been very active. There's been a couple of about half a dozen people in our club that have been really good at putting that together, and that's part of what's doing it. Because especially in France, people are like, all right, how do I go and play competitions online? Because there's the WBIF, but it's it's not always possible. Like a lot of the time you have to pay to play. You're not playing that often. They just want to play more, and they want to play matches that that count. Apart from that, we do outreach, but I think it's just a question of being present, getting the word out there, and especially working on social media to really spread the word. I think it'd be really nice if there was a kind of Queen's Gambit show about backgammon. I think that would that would certainly help, but that's not really my area of expertise. I think maybe in Los Angeles you could probably do something better than me.
Maybe there was a series on YouTube one time called Falafel's Game. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
You should look that up. It's about an hour or so. I think it's in 4 parts, but it's kind of like a documentary. It's really nice. And, I agree nowadays, everything's on social media. And I feel like specifically videos are useful for promoting backgammon because you can actually watch the match, watching the people play, hearing the commentary, even having the XG feed. I feel like that does a lot. And congratulations on all the videos you've done. You've done many, many videos. How did you first get into the streaming?
That was like, I mean, the commentated matches. That was it was actually not this year, but I think last year. It was during the online French national championship, which is on WAF, but it's governed by the French Federation. And I took part in it, and I just saw, like, there's so many people I know, and there's so many good players here, but they're having their matches, and like nobody's watching, nobody's seeing this, and nobody's kind of learning from this. I thought it was a bit of a shame, so I found that, and so I just contacted people and said, "Would you mind if I commentated your match and put it online?" And just started like that. And the first time you do it, it's hard. I don't know if you do much commentary of matches yourself, but like you do it the first time and just talking and talking for an hour or more. It's really hard. But I suppose when you get into it, it becomes second nature. I have huge admiration for Nick Blasier in particular, because it seems like he can just stand in front of the camera and just keep going. And it's always interesting. It's always engaging and entertaining as well. You kind of aspire to that kind of level of commentary. He's very good.
Yeah, he's outstanding. I remember when I first saw him at the World Championships. I actually sent him a message telling him how much I enjoyed that, and that's great. I feel like before I started formally doing commentary, I've watched many of them, and also, I had progressed to a pretty reasonable level in terms of PR. And when you do that and you have that background, it kind of helps talk about it during. Nick Blasier is outstanding. Other people have their own style. Like, I don't know if you've seen Phil Simborg. He's very funny. You just kind of mix things up, and oftentimes when I was doing the commentary, at the recent Los Angeles tournaments, there were many top world-class players that joined me, and that was fantastic. I mean, we had Neil Kazaros, Matt Congeyer, Joe Russell, Steve Sachs, Marty Storr. I don't want to leave people off, but there were many of them. There were many of them. And Kit Woolsey. Yeah, all the giants, they were there, and it's really great to hear their perspective and interact with them. I'm missing many of them, but there were a lot of them. Chris Trencher, Jake Jacobs, Dana Nazarian, a lot of people. But that's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and I think it promotes backgammon a lot. And I know you recently started, or I think it was Simon who started the whole idea of the stream champs, right? Tell us about that, please.
Oh yeah, stream champs. It started off, I just found myself included in a Facebook Messenger group. I was like, oh, what's this? With lots of people who I didn't know, but obviously I knew the names of, like Dirk, Schiemann, and Michi, and various others. Some huge people in backgammon. And he's like, well, I think we could. We all have YouTube channels. we could work together and do something. Unfortunately, Simon, he couldn't actually. It didn't work with his schedule to actually come and play with us this time. Hopefully next season if we do it. But it became Stream Champs, and this is essentially a collaborative effort between 10, 11, counting you, YouTube streamers, content creators, video artists, or whatever you want to call us. I wouldn't call us a video artist. That's terrible. But yeah, so it's very simple. It's a very simple concept. It's a round robin. Everyone will play everyone in 7-point matches, but each match will be recorded and commentated from the perspective of each player. So you can go and you can watch both videos and you can get both sides of the story. And it's a way of connecting all of these extremely different players and commentators. And it's very international. We have Nick Blasier from the US, me in France, Dan Rovira and Georgiou in the UK, Gianlazzaro Sanna in Italy, Dirk, Schiemann and Birkle in Germany, and Hanna Polyakova and Denis Mikhaylov in Russia. So it's extremely international. And if you go and look, and Naoki Iketani, of course, in Japan, very strong Grandmaster. If you actually go and look at these different channels, they're worlds apart. I would highly recommend just subscribing to all of them, but I have a special fondness. I don't know if you've ever watched Naoki Iketani's channel. It's in Japanese, but he has he commentates as an animatronic cat.
What is the name of his channel?
MichyBG, IPEBG.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it, but probably because it's in a different language.
Yeah, but you could. That's interesting. Subtitles in English, so I highly recommend. He's very good. He's very good. He's part of it as well. So it's been really good, and I've got to know people. I met Nick Blasier for the first time just before playing my match with him. He stomped on me 7-0. It was brutal. But yeah, so it's been good, and we've been working together to try and help each other, promote each other's content, come together and just involve as many people as possible. And it's only just starting, but I think it'll get bigger, and I'm hoping there'll be a next season and we'll have even more people interested. Because I know there's some streamers that didn't have time to do it, like Simon Bargett and Michi, Mark Olsen, and there were some, I don't even think they were in the chat, like Justin Noel. He'd be a fun participant. Yeah. But we'll see. We just gotta keep going and see where it takes us. But it's
yes.
Have you watched any of the matches we've done yet?
Yes. I was going to tell you I was invited, but again, it's hard for me in terms of my time, just because of my schedule. I have limited blocks of time, but I would love to help, like doing videos like this to talk about it, or I can do commentary videos. I've really enjoyed it because you see like a lot of different things. It promotes backgammon in many different ways. For example, you have them in different languages, so that's going to attract different audiences. You have younger people, you have the women that are doing it, so that's fantastic. I saw one of them recently, and so some of the players that have a different mentality. They're just trying to get the best play by XG. Other players are a little bit more, enthusiastic, more energy. It's fun to see all the different styles. And I saw something new for the first time. I'm used to seeing the XG feed, which is nice. That's something that I've added. I've done a few things like, on the online match, it's just you just show it online. But when you have the live boards, it's actually really nice to be able to have the view of the board, of course. And if you have player cams, if you can see their faces, people like that. The other thing that I've done in my streams is I include the XG feed, and with that I'm able to enlarge the dice, because oftentimes on the stream on a live board the dice are small. So when you enlarge it, and then I put the clock on the side and the player cam. One of the things I saw for the first time today is people had their pulse on the video. So how do they do that?
Yeah. I think it must be connected to the Fitbit or something like that. But it is quite cool when you see some difficult plays and you just see the numbers start to clock up a bit. We just see, you know, there's a risk of gammon, and then it's really fun to do. I would be a bit worried about what mine would read out.
I know I've done a lot of commentary, both, you know, in person live and also recorded commentary where I have the XG feed. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I've received about backgammon videos is that people enjoy it much more when there is a commentary as opposed to just a silent video. Yeah. So I think doing these really helps promote backgammon. So yeah, thank you so much for organizing. I feel like you've taken the lead on this initiative.
It's been fun. I quite like it. It got to a point where like in the chat, like towards the end of last year, where like, people were saying, "All right, yeah, I'm interested," but there needed to be some kind of impulse to just get things started and get it over the line. So you know, I got some experience in putting together tournaments, and this was relatively simple. So I just like, all right, let's just do it. Come on. I got to put together some graphic whatever, so people could have an idea of what to look for, maybe some things to put on their channel. But it seems to be going well. We got I think there's only 2 players that haven't yet played, or they may have by the time this goes out. Dirk, Schiemann, and Dan Rovira. I'm looking forward to watching that match. I think that would be great. Both very strong players.
Yes, I've had both of them on my channel. We play matches. I would love to join. It's just that my schedule, I'm limited to kind of like a 1-hour block.
Sure.
So I can't play a long match. But I have had a lot of people, and of course you're invited, join me for a 3-point match on XG followed by an analysis. I feel like those are really fun and they're very educational because you can talk about it, you can consult, and I've even had doubles. I've had most of these players I've had on the channel. So it's fun because just hearing people talk back and forth is very educational, and you go back and analyze it. And a 3-point match doesn't take all that long to do. You learn a lot, and I feel like that's kind of the way I like to contribute.
Mm-hmm. And you do a wonderful job. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I think I've had most of the people on the Stream Champs, but I haven't had you. So I'd love to have you, as well as a few of the others. Hanna I invited, but it's a little bit difficult because of the time difference. She's in Russia, and she's young. I don't know how old she is.
She's 14 years old.
Yeah, so she's in school. I can't. It's a little hard to coordinate the schedule because if I do it during my normal lunch break, she's asleep. And the other one out of Japan and Denis I haven't had, but all the other ones I believe I've had on my channel. Yeah, so I do a lot of those. I do a lot of these types of interviews. Initially, I had done a lot of reviews on books. There aren't that many backgammon books, but one of the ones I did was on the Backgammon Strategic Concepts by Francois Tardieu. So you did the translation for that, which I recently learned. So thank you very much, because that was very important. If it was only in French, only a very small percentage of people in the world would be able to read it. But now it's available in English. Maybe we can talk about that. How were you approached by to translate that book?
Well, I'm I'm a professional translator in my day-to-day life, and this is just quite known. So the president of the federation just came to me and said, "Look, I've taken all of Francois Tardieu's notes, all of the various PDFs that have been flying around, and put them in this book. It's come out and it's doing well, but people are asking for it in English." So he actually started. There was one guy, there's another British player, very strong British player called John Gallagher in Brittany, who made a start on it, but on a kind of voluntary basis. Unfortunately, he got a bit ill. So they asked me to come on board and like was it professionally, because they wanted to bring it out for Monte Carlo last year. So like, can you like rock this out before May so we can get it printed and do it? And it's like, yeah, sure. So I did it in my spare time, just after work, a couple of hours a day. I'd sit down, and it's been a really interesting experience, because I'm sure you've had this experience with a lot of backgammon books. You'll open them, you'll read them, you'll find concepts interesting, then you'll close them, and then most of what you've read is just not staying in your head. Like when you're translating, like I imagine if you're kind of proofreading or rewriting or whatever a book, you have to go over it so many times that much more just stays. And yeah, just was doing that over a period of 3 months, and just a lot of these concepts just went and have sunk in, and it's been like it was very entertaining to do. Obviously, I tried to maintain a style, but you're probably not familiar with much French literature. French formal literature is not easy to read if you're not used to it. It's like very long sentences, like a lot of kind of slightly redundant grammar. So a lot of the work was actually just to try and retain the style, retain the identity of the author, but actually make it like something that's completely readable for an English-speaking audience. And you mentioned earlier that I did get one thing wrong. One thing I hadn't actually realized that could possibly be a mistake, but instead of to hit, I would write to shoot, because that's what you say in French, is shooter. And I just thought, all right, that must be shoot in English, because they're using the English word in French, but no. So yes, people came to me and was like, why are you saying that? So maybe in a future re-edition it will be changed to hit. But I quite like it, actually. I mean, it gives it a bit more of the French flavor while still being kind of understandable.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's I should say that for the American audience, if you'd like to get a copy, you can get it via Carol Joy or Roberto Litzenberger. They're the in the States. If you're in Europe, I'm not sure how it works if you're in the rest of the world, but I would go directly to the French Backgammon Federation, the FFBG. You just go to ffbg.fr, and I'm sure there's a link to it there. But it's been a really fun process, and doing that and talking to Francois Tardieu and kind of getting just kind of a bit more of a feel for the author. Because he's still a very strong player. He was back playing in the French national championships in October. He got quite far. I think he got to like quarterfinals or something like that. But like, even after a 20-year break, he's still playing very consistently, very high level. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Yes, he is outstanding. I know for myself, I'm a little lucky in the sense that because of my training, I've had to read so much stuff and memorize it. I'm able to retain it a little bit, which is good. And I've read many backgammon books. Of course, I enjoy it. I recently spoke with Bill Roberti, who's written many backgammon books, and he said one time the person that learns the most from the book is the author himself, because you go back and read it and study it. And I feel like it's almost the same when you translate it. Did you feel like you learned a lot just by doing that?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, what I would do, because the Reddit, there's the main text of the chapter, and then there's certain positions and problems. And so what I would do, especially as I was translating, I would go and I would try and like do the problems before translating them. And like, obviously a certain percentage I get wrong. And then, but I do the same thing as I was going back proofreading it, and I got almost like all of them right, considering there's, I don't know, a couple of hundred positions in there. I found that the concepts actually remained much better than they had if I just read the book. So I'd read it in French, but not in detail before.
Right. Yeah, I really like how he did it. For the viewers who have not read it, I highly recommend it. I'll put a link in the description. But there are chapters on different kinds of topics like early game, middle game, prime versus prime, anchor games, things like that. There's not really much, if any, about cube action, but it's all about checker play. And what I really like is in each chapter is a little bit of an introduction, and they have problems, and it's all 2 pages. So on the left side, there's the question, and then he puts the 3 or 4 choices with the resulting position. So like A, B, C, and D, and then you look at it, and on the right side of the page, it has the explanation, and it's not too long, and there's a brief summary at the end, and sometimes with a key point. So it's really good, I think, for anyone at any level.
Yeah, I think he's a master in particular at positional play. Like there's not many people that I found can express that kind of style of play as well as he can. Like just you take it and it's like no, you play according to this particular game plan. You maintain the position and you do that, and things start to just kind of snap into place, which is quite incredible. Like there's a really good chapter at the end about playing against Backgames.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when to slot, when not to slot, just and so it's not a mathematic one, which I quite like. It doesn't rely on equity or match winning chances or anything like that. It's just it's almost more of a kind of aesthetic approach to the game, and that really resonated with me.
Yeah, I reviewed the chapter on Backgames when I was writing my book on Backgames. I had actually finished writing the manuscript of my book when his book came out. So I quickly read that chapter. This is not that long, but basically everything he said was things that I would say, but there were certain ways that he said it that were actually really good. For example, when the anchors are adjacent, like you can see the image in my background. You see there's a 2-3 back game. I call that adjacent anchor back games because the anchors are on adjacent points. Sometimes you will have a gap between them of 1 point, which I call a single gap back game, or 2 points, double gap back games. The adjacent anchor back games like this one in the position are particularly strong when the attacker is clearing a 5 prime, because one of the things that he said is you see here the 2-3 points have direct contact on the 8 point, which he wants to clear. And in this position, white rolls a 6-5, which is completely forced, leaving 2 blots and a triple shot, and then it becomes a double pass. So that's the benefit of having the adjacent anchors. Yeah, so that's a fantastic book. In addition to doing the translation, have you had the opportunity to meet him in person or play with him?
I've never played with him. I'd like to. I've met him. The first time I met him was at the French National Championships, not the past one, but the one before. He was there. I think that coincided with the French launch of his book, which would have been, I think, September, October 2022. So yeah, he's a very nice guy, very warm, very friendly. He's not like the most kind of outgoing guy. He's very, very cerebral. But it was great to see him and great to have him back in kind of competitive backgammon. It's really good for the community.
He was one of the top giants maybe 20 years ago or so.
Yeah, I think he was in the top 3 in the world of the giants of backgammon at some point. Yeah. Legend.
Yeah. Yes, he is. In the world, and also, of course, in France. And so that's great. It's always fun to be able to help work on books. You learn, you help others to learn and educate people. It's great. It's great for everyone. So thank you for doing that as well. I was actually waiting for that book in English. I don't remember enough to be able to read the French version, so I'm glad the English version came out.
Oh, it's a pleasure to bring it to you.
Yeah, I've got to cut off for just a moment. Are you able to hear me?
Yep, you're back.
Yeah. What was the last thing you said?
So I said it was a pleasure to bring it to you, and I was very happy to.
Yes.
It's been really good, and
I
think my backgammon has improved. I think I dropped like a half a point in PR over the 3 months while I was doing it. So
that's
as good a recommendation as any, I think.
I was fortunate to have a friend who went to the World Championships get me a copy and bring it for me. So that was fantastic. And then we've been talking a lot about all these different things about backgammon. One of the fun things we like to do in these videos is sometimes go through positions, and I like to select positions that are relevant. So I know we're streaming a match. I don't remember who it's from, but let me go ahead and share this screen here.
Yeah, this is a match
And
from today, I think. Yeah, this was from
today.
Yeah, this is my match today. This was against a guy called Johnny Hirondelle. It's in the Coupe de France, which is it's a monthly single elimination tournament that the federation runs, and they do one a month, I think, from October to June, and then the winners and finalists play in a kind of master tournament in the summer. So this was the quarterfinal of January's one. I'm not no spoilers. If you want to see what happens, just go to the channel, link in the description.
Yeah, I'll put a link in there, but just to kind of introduce the position, it was played, I believe, on the Heroes platform. So I tried to select a board that looks like the Heroes board. This was a 13-point match. You were playing the black checkers at the bottom, your opponent the yellow checkers at the top. It's the first game. The score is 0-0, so 13 away, 13 away. You've already doubled, so the opponent owns the cube. You have a full prime, retaining one back checker for yellow, but you do have one checker on the bar, and you have a 5-1 to play here. And of course, the one is forced to come in, and there are two options with the 5. And I believe, one of the things I learned in Francois Tardieu's book is prime versus prime games are some of the most difficult games. And he has a whole chapter on that. And this is a type of prime versus prime game because you have one checker behind, you have one of the opponent's checkers behind the full prime, but you're behind a prime yourself after you come in. So with the 5, there are two legal options. We'll go through the analysis, but it's very stressful and very difficult when you're actually playing the match to know there's time pressure, there's all sorts of things. But what was your thought process when you were thinking about this?
My thought process was, oh crap. The worst possible role. So I was actually I was a little bit stressed because it's one of those positions where you think you have this kind of unconquerable advantage, you have a massive advantage, you can't lose, and then you roll something like this, and you're like, oh. So it's kind of an emotional kind of drain. So I had that, and I played a bit quickly. I only really considered one play, so thinking, well, I can still keep him primed behind a 5 prime here. I didn't consider what is actually the far superior play, which is the blitzing play. Considering he has a weaker board, and I have essentially 14 men in the zone, and I think maybe if I spent a bit longer, I'd at least have considered it. I'm not sure if I would have actually played it. I think even now that I know the correct play is the banana split 6-1. When I still look at my opponent's board and I see, all right, he's got a 4-point board. Things can go terribly wrong, leaving that many checkers out in the wild, blocks out in the wild. Yeah, I kind of blame myself for just playing it almost automatically here. You see it, and you're trained to kind of clear from the rear. You roll primes in from the back, and yeah. So what about you? When you saw this position, was your thought immediately just enter in the 24 and 7-2, or did you see the banana split?
It's hard for me to answer that honestly because when I was watching it, the XG feed was on, so I already saw the answer.
Okay.
But these are difficult. This is one of those things I like to do to study from XG, like you were talking about. So I'll show the analysis here. Here it shows that you're an underdog no matter what, and of course it's forced to come in, and then you have two options with the 5, the safe 7-1 or seemingly safe, or the banana split, which is hitting with 6-1, breaking your board, and that looks like this, and it results in this position. The advantage here is white has a checker on the bar. The disadvantage is you have a 4-point board with 2 blots in it. The other alternative play, the other legal option is to come in and play the 5 here, resulting in this position. The challenge here is now the opponent can come out with sixes, cover with fives, or hit with threes, twos, and ones, or cover or 4-1 and things like that. So you have to kind of go through and look at XG to see what the analysis says. Sometimes I do a dice distribution analysis. I don't know if you're familiar with those. I made a special video for how to do that. It's available to all USBGF premium members. But basically, I looked at this is the equity heat map for the top play, the banana split. So this is how all of the opponent's rolls play. You can see this block of green, and these are all the dancing numbers.
Yeah.
5-2, 5-3, 5-4, double five, and so forth. Those are really good. Green is good. And then for play B, the other play, it's here. And this is the difference. So you gain big on these rolls, like 5-2, 5-3-2, 5-3, and so forth. And this table shows exactly how they're played. For example, after making the play 7-2, if the opponent rolls a 5-2, hits, and then a 3-2 hits. 5-3 safe is useful because he can cover, but with the top play cannot move. So those are big swings in favor of that. And then if you go back to the original position, this was the original position. The other thing I like to do to see why that's correct is modify the position and make variants. I only did a couple of them, but one of the things I noticed here is that the opponent has a blot on the board, and I felt like that makes a big difference. So I made this variant here where I moved this checker from here to here, and now look, hitting becomes a blunder. And then I did it the other way, moving it to here, and it's still a blunder. I didn't look at many more variants other than these, but you could also change the position to like when these checkers are here, or move some of these checkers back, give someone more timing, and so forth. That will make a difference. But
well, that's going to make his threes and fives much worse, I suppose, because he no longer has the threes to hit or fives to cover.
Right.
So that's fascinating. That's fascinating.
Yeah, this is a great way of learning. But I thought we'd share that position because people enjoy looking at the positions. In addition to
thanks for reminding me of that role.
It's fun. You know, someone told me, you know, the top players are the ones that play their bad roles well. Everyone can bear off 4 checkers with a double 6, but when you have a difficult play, if you learn how to play those, that's how you get really good. And this is how you learn. But
absolutely.
You know,
when you're trying to when you got to choose between bad and worse,
right.
I think it's the mental thing as well. Like I was saying,
Yes.
like that it was a shock. But if you can kind of get past that and still kind of be able to analyze a position and play accurately, that's the difference between good and great.
And it's especially stressful given that you know in this situation that it's going to be streamed, that it's going to go on YouTube, and everybody's going to be watching it. And when you're watching it, like for me, I was watching it and I saw the answer right there. But of course, you don't have that. So when you see the answer, you're like, oh yeah, it's so easy, but it's not. It's not. But I look at all these things as everyone makes errors. I make a lot of errors myself, but I look at them as an opportunity to learn. And that's always good. So that was fantastic. I think we covered a lot of topics, a lot of backgammon, all of your YouTube and streaming things, and the book and the position. What else? Is there anything else you'd like to discuss? Any final comments before we conclude the video?
Yeah, just one quick thing. Just think it's worth mentioning. You asked how I learned from XG, and there's one big thing I forgot to mention. That is when I don't understand something well, in particular, for example, containment, I like to play from position. If I've done something badly, and I like to do that, and I just keep playing it and seeing where I make the errors and try and learn from that. And I get a lot from that, and I recommend that to anyone to do. If you're making, especially if you're in a game where you've made a lot of blunders, it's clear that you've not understood the position. So just go back and play through it until you have a better understanding of it.
Yes, that's actually very good. I do basically the same thing in a slightly different way. I just basically look at the 36 possible rolls or 21 unique permutations. So I make one play and then I think about how every single one of my opponent's rolls play. So you can play your opponent's rolls, but instead of playing from position, I like to just play from the position, but play every single roll. So I'll start with 6-5, 6-4, 6-3. How would that play? And then think about the next 36. So that's 1,296 possibilities or 441 unique permutations. When you start thinking about these, and you don't have to think about every single one, but you think about like the anti-jokers or the jokers and things like that, it's the same. It's just a different way of doing the same thing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. When I did a little while ago, I did a few classes with Simon Bargett, which is really helpful. It accelerated a lot. But he said that if you're running low on time and you can't really go through all of the possible combinations, like kind of cheap shortcut ways, just to how do the 6 doubles work in this, and that's it gives you obviously not a complete idea, but a kind of a grasp of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you got time, go through more. If not, that can be better than nothing, better than just, you know, hazarding a guess.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on your level. For novice players, I don't recommend this at all. But like when you get to the top levels, it's like I've spoken with some of the top players. Like I've played with Wilcox Snellings, and he looks at a position and he goes, "Okay, this roll is bad. This roll is bad." Boom, 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 like boom, right off the top of the top of his head, and it's just fantastic. I can do it. It takes me a little bit longer, but some of these players just like automatically when you practice with anything, you get better, and if you practice with that, you'll start seeing things and you'll be able to kind of see the future a little bit better, because in backgammon, just like in life, and backgammon, I feel like in that respect, it's an analogy for life. You basically make your play not knowing what the possibilities are on the next roll or the following roll, but you can average them. You can think about all of them and see how each play would play for all of them, and see what would be better.
Yeah, you're completely right. I find this it is a logical game, but it's also a game of you kind of you develop an intuition for the probabilities as well. So I've started to get that. Sometimes I'll see my opponent do something in the outfield when he's bearing in, and there'll just be something that clicks. It's like, oh, he's left the double four, so he didn't have to do that. And there's interesting things like that. And well, one interesting thing I found is the kind of cube sense. You ever had? I imagine you have that when you play. You just kind of you get, just after experience and knowledge of positions, you just get a kind of feeling that it's like there could be a cube here, rather than just like looking every time. Just like sometimes you'll just notice that kind of sense of volatility, and start to be much more aware of potential cubes. I'm not sure how you teach that apart from just playing more and analyzing more, but I find it fascinating.
It's just practicing every single position. I feel like sometimes if you're trying to practice those kinds of things, you start with simple positions, for example, last roll positions, and say, you know, put 2 checkers. What's your probability of winning? You know, is it a double? Is it not a double? And then you modify the opponent's position. Is it a take, and so forth? And kind of starting from there gives you kind of a good baseline understanding.
Yeah. There's also quite a satisfying thing when you're in a position where you've made a blunder before, and you realize, oh, I can learn something absolutely concrete from this. I had this a similar thing today actually in this match. I had my position was not very good. I had like 3 checkers on the juice point against an otherwise closed board, but he was winning. I think he was winning like 10-1 in a match to 13, and he sent the cube. And in my match against Nick Blasier, I passed a similar cube, and it had been a huge blunder. It was actually a big no double. So I had almost the same position, but slightly better for me, and he sent it. And it's like, well, I've seen this before very recently. So, all right, I'm taking this cube. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, great. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed speaking with you, learning about all the things you did. Thank you for everything. I've certainly enjoyed a lot of your videos, of course, and many of the other viewers have as well. So thank you and congratulations to all of your efforts. And it's going to be a pleasure for me to have you on again. If you ever want to do another video to promote other interests or play a match, those are always fun. I've had the privilege of being able to meet so many different people around the world, such as yourself in France and elsewhere. I really enjoy the opportunity to speak with you and others on the video, and I always hope to one day have the chance to meet you in person. For me, it's a little difficult to travel, but if you're ever here in the United States, if you're in Los Angeles, you'll be my guest. So thank you so much. We'll go ahead and conclude. Do you have any final remarks before we conclude?
No, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. I would recommend that everyone subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. It's wonderful, a great source of content and knowledge, information and entertainment. So thank you for everything you've done. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been great to talk about my club and Backgammon and what we've been doing.
Yes, I'll put a link in the description to your YouTube channel, and I think we have links to all the streamers, right? In the Facebook chat, I can put links to that too. So wonderful. Thank you again very much. We'll go ahead and conclude. Thank you to the viewers for watching. I appreciate your time. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as we have. Please like and subscribe, and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. And please go to James's channel and like and subscribe his videos as well. It always helps with everything. Please let me know what you think in the comments below and what you'd like to see in future videos so I can work on that. Again, my book, Backgammon, Backgames Strategies, is available. There's a link in the description to where you can get it. And Backgammon Strategic Concepts by Francois Tardieu, who was generously translated by James, is also available. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description there as well. If you're interested in lessons, please contact me via email. My email will be in the description. I look forward to seeing everyone in future videos. And until then, keep rolling your dice.